Let me introduce myself. My name is Kurt Schwengel. I'm a kindergarten teacher from Santa Monica, California. And there I am with my current class of kindergartners. Aren't they cute? There I am with my first class of kindergartners. Like I said, I've been teaching for 18 years, so my kids ready for this, have all graduated from college. And once a year we get together and have a reunion where I take credit for all their successes. And it's a great job because I get to watch the kids grow from Zoe then to Zoe now. And it's also great because I get to travel back in time and see what was really cool 12 years ago. Apparently dyeing your hair blonde 12 years ago was really, really cool. And the tip of fashion back then. And just to show you kids never change, there's Matthew still messing around in the background. Naughty in kindergarten is naughty in high school, I'll tell you. But I'm here today to talk to you about evolution. And not the controversial theory of human evolution, but just how things evolve as a whole. Not just people, but objects. And the definition of to evolve is to undergo slow changes. So we're going to talk about some things that undergo slow changes over time. Like products that you use every day evolve over time. Okay? Has anybody ever seen this on their lawn? Your garden hose is such a mess that you decide to just let your lawn die for the summer. Well, somebody came along and through this problem invented what? The pocket hose. Okay? To solve an everyday problem. Earbuds. Has anybody ever taken their earbuds out of their pocket and just decided not to go on a run that day because they were too tangled? So what did somebody come along and invent? Is zip-up earbuds that don't get tangled in your pocket, okay? Great product, okay? And now we've come to the man's single greatest achievement, okay? And that is, of course, the Snuggie. When you think about it, the blanket has not evolved since the dawn of man. Okay? It just recently took somebody to realize that they can improve on the blanket. And what did they do? They just cut some holes in it. And what problem did this solve? Let's stop the myth right now that anybody has ever read a book in a Snuggie. Okay? What do we do in a Snuggie? We watch TV. So what problem did it solve? It solved the problem of having to take your hand out from under the blanket to change the channel. Okay? So that's how things evolve, is they solve problems as we go. Now let's take a look back at a product that I'm sure you high school kids are very familiar with, and that's your phone. Okay, some of you are probably on it right now. Okay, but they obviously didn't start out that way. Okay, they started out looking like this, and this is back in the day when you had to call the operator to call your next door neighbor. Okay, so you'd call the operator, you'd tell them who you want to talk to, and they'd do the one ringy-dingy, two ringy-dingy, and connect you to your neighbor. And what happened from there was phones got a little smaller, and you could actually dial direct. Okay, now ask your parents about this. Where's the redial button on that phone? What did we used to hear, adults? Okay, because some of these kids have never heard this sound before. Does anybody remember a busy signal? Okay, so not only did this phone not have a redial, but also you had to actually, are you ready for this? Memorize people's phone numbers. Kids today probably don't know anything past their own phone numbers. It's always obvious when your battery runs out and you have to call from somebody else's phone and you realize, I don't know anybody else's phone number in this entire world except mine. So phones continue to evolve. They eventually went cordless. And then these came along, okay? The pager beeper. And what these did was somebody could call you and leave their number. But did you have a cell phone to call anybody? No, what did you have to do? You had to find a phone booth. And these were so prevalent back then that Superman used to change on them, okay? And these were on every street corner. And then phones became cellular. And this is Gordon Gekko, the billionaire on your right up there. That's as small as those phones were, okay? You had to be really, really rich to have one of these when they first came out. And they were still huge, comically huge. And what happened? Phones got smaller and smaller to the point where they got so small they could fit in your ear. But why aren't we all wearing these? Because what happened next was phones got smart. And as phones got smarter and smarter, what's happening to the phone now? It's getting bigger and bigger. To the point where the bottom left here, that doesn't look so ridiculous. Holding an iPad up to your ear doesn't look as ridiculous as you thought it would have been 5 years ago. So you can see how things evolve. They get bigger and smaller over time just to meet the necessities. And what's TV telling us is the next big thing? The wrist phone. And why is it, what problem is this solving? It's solving the problem of having to take your phone out of your pocket to check your text. That's how lazy we've become, is now we need this information not in our pocket, but actually on our wrist. Which will be funny to those children of the 80s like myself, to when we think back to anybody ever playing on a calculator watch, you were officially a nerd. And in 2 to 3 years, everybody is going to be texting from their watches like crazy, okay? And as a sign nowadays that maybe we're a little bit too dependent on technology, does anybody know what this is? This is a jail for your cell phone. This is what they make for families to actually be able to put their cell phones in a little jail for 30 minutes during dinner so that they could actually communicate with each other, okay? Another sign that we might be a little bit too dependent on technology, okay, can we not go 10 minutes without being online? And it's no wonder when our generations of kids are being raised like this, okay? My kids are older now, they don't need to be potty trained, but I'm probably just as guilty as any other parent nowadays. If I needed to potty train a child and I was struggling, I'd probably go to this. Okay, so it's no wonder that we're becoming so dependent on technology. Okay, but it's not just technology that's evolving. Fashion evolves. Look back just a few years ago to the 70s, and you could see what passed for high fashion back then. Okay, it looks ridiculous now, but guess what? It didn't look ridiculous then. And then the 80s came along. This is what kids looked like when I went to Samohi. Okay, I think I sat next to this guy at Samohi right here, and you didn't look twice, okay? But here's a word of advice for you high schoolers out there. Hold on to your clothes, because in 20 years, these are going to be Halloween costumes, okay? These are some of the baseball players that I coach here at Samohi. So just my warning is, in 20 years, your kids are going to be asking for your outfits, saying that they need to go to a Halloween party, or they need to look like whatever. So hang on to them. And look at classrooms. Classrooms are evolving. Look at how far we've come from old-time classrooms, and these are future classrooms. Whenever you look up pictures of future classrooms, they're really real green and real sleek. But they're all eventually going to end up like this, with some interesting furniture inside them, desks that deliver you the information, and we already have those. They're called smart tables. Unfortunately, they're $7,000 a piece, so not a lot of schools have them. But it's evolving, and look at something else in the classroom that hadn't evolved for 100 years. This is the same chair I sat in at Samohi, and they're still here today in some of the classrooms, but chairs are evolving to the point where teachers are now giving students different chair options to either sit on yoga balls, and this is the future of chairs. This is what they're going to look like very soon, and the chairs in the classrooms are going to change like this, and they're already evolving here at Samohi. Does anybody have Miss Gasparino or any of these classes here? These chairs are evolving so that they're at 3 different heights. And why is that? So the person in the back row doesn't stare at somebody's head for an hour. So it's kind of amphitheater seating in the classroom, and the teachers are warming up to it. So you can see how classrooms are evolving. And it's not going to be long before all we have to do is put a little ring on a student, and we're not only going to measure his performance on the test, we're going to manage his brain waves and be able to determine his anxiety level during the tests. And GPS is going to be a game changer in the classroom, okay? Of course, the kids are already GPSed through their iPhones, but teachers like me, we can put GPS devices on our restroom passes so that when we hand them out, we could actually watch them go everywhere but the restroom on campus. And you could just sit there and watch them go visit their friends. But, you know, try not to become too dependent on technology. As we learned with the last rollout of Apple Maps was sending so many people in the wrong directions that in Alaska, they actually had to close an airport because the Apple Maps application had people driving consistently across their runways. Now, I don't know who in Alaska can't see a runway in front of them and is more dependent on their cell phone than their eyes to navigate, but that's how dependent we've become on technology. And you could see the teachers evolving. Look at the teachers evolving. Now, I'm not saying the teacher on the left wasn't cool, okay? Maybe she was the coolest teacher in the school, but I think it's pretty safe to say they're not as cool as Miss Gasparino there on the right, she's a great teacher here at Samohi. And the students are evolving. These little robots that can attend class for the kids were created for these terminally ill children who couldn't attend class. It's not going to be long before these are rolling through the hallways everywhere just when you get a cold. Now, if students are no longer needed to attend class, how long until the teachers are not attending class? How long until our teachers are actually video Skyping their teaching lessons in? And we're already doing that here at Samohi to some classes out in Malibu, some advanced calculus classes. So Miss Gasparino, it won't be long before she can teach from her jammies at home. And does anybody notice anything eerie about that picture? Somebody always says that Michael Jackson is teaching that class. It's not Michael Jackson teaching that class. That's a Japanese classroom with a robot teaching it. And the robot is actually connected to something like Siri, so that the robot is getting smarter with every question and answer it's giving. And you say, but we need the human touch in the classroom, do we? You want to know who one of the most popular stars is in all of Japan, who's filling out arenas everywhere? Is this hologram. People in Japan are flocking to see a concert starring a hologram. And Kindles are taking over, just in my kindergarten class alone. Kindles are replacing all the books we read. And they just opened a paperless, book-free library in Texas, which begs the question, is that even a library? But this is where it's headed. And this is why I travel the country giving my Occupy Kindergarten speech, because kindergarten should be a fun place. And what's happening is they're pushing down the curriculum. All the Common Core curriculum is turning the kindergarten that I'm teaching now into the first grade that I attended. And that's a shame for 5-year-olds who just want to have fun. But not everything's evolving. If anybody can come up with a cure for lice, you will make $1 billion. Because forget about tea tree oil, that is not a common cure. Nothing is affected lice. But you as a person are evolving. If you think about yourself, you're evolving, okay? You start out as a cute little baby here, okay, a cute little helpless baby, and slowly, hopefully, sometime around preschool, you get potty trained, right? And then hopefully you graduate kindergarten, learn to read and write in elementary school, and find your passions. And what you're doing with your life, and what you're doing with your life today specifically, is you're investing in yourself. Just by coming to a cool event like today where you have all these learning opportunities to expand your horizons, what you're doing is investing in yourself every day. You find something that you love and you stick with it until the next thing you know, you're king of Samohi, like Eli here, my former student. So my advice to you today, my parting words are keep evolving, keep investing in yourself until you're fully evolved, which is actually never. So thank you all for your time today.